All right, welcome back to the second hour of the show with no name, we hope. We're just discussing whether the green light was on or off, or the red light was on or off for the last show.
And your camera, is the red light mean it's going?
Yeah, it means it's going.
I don't understand that. Doesn't red mean stop? Green
I don't
means
know.
go, and
Yeah,
yellow means go faster.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch. I guess we forgot to do that the last hour. We just assume you know who we are by now. You know, we got the usual customers.
So what's been going on in the mayor's office?
Here's one thing that bothers me. The other day, there was a newspaper article I didn't watch. I don't even know if it was on TV, but I didn't watch the Common Council meeting. But they were going through the list of capital programs. Okay? And I guess the #1 priority was tearing down the Esquire building.
That was on that list, yeah.
All right, so let's go through a little brief history of that. Esquire went out of business, whatever. Had a big mortgage on the property, right?
Big mortgage.
Mortgage foreclosed, and the bank who held the mortgage put the property up for auction. Not awfully long after business had ceased in there, so it was a functional building at the time. So they put it up for auction and get no bids. I guess that was a foreclosure auction. So the bank bid in and took title to the building. Then they put it up for sale again, and they have another wider auction, you know, where they advertise around, blah, 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 building for sale, we'll take whatever we can get and all that. No bids.
Really
now, this property was such a white elephant that the bank who now owned it let it go for taxes. So ultimately there's a tax foreclosure and the city takes title to it. I think they took title during the foreclosure I did in the Emanuel administration. Now, in 2007, the city applies for and receives a $2.5 million Restore New York grant based on the rehabilitation of that property.
So then the money that we received was supposed to be put back into the property to improve it, correct?
In one way or another, or to redevelop it. Now, I was greatly opposed to this internally at the time because I thought this was a stupid thing to do when you get a $2.5 million grant available to put it all into one building that would be for the benefit of whoever came in and bought it and redeveloped it. In other words, the developer would be getting $2.5 million free and clear on this, okay? And that $2.5 million could have gone to redeveloping the rest of the Mahasko property, for example. It could have gone to demolishing properties all over the city, you know, when we had no money to do these housing demolitions. $2.5 million could have gone a long way. So I thought this was a dumb idea. But not my decision to make, and the decision was made, the application was put in, and the grant received. Then the city markets it, and even with that $2.5 million up front, they couldn't get anybody interested in the property. Not even Uri Kaufman, who looked at it. Not even Uri Kaufman would be with $2.5 million handed to him.
Wasn't for him.
Now, my question is, what the hell ever happened to that Restore New York grant? I've asked this question many times over the years and gotten no answers.
So we don't know where that $2.5 million is.
That's right. Now, did the city ultimately lose that $2.5 million grant because we didn't use it? In which case there's huge negligence on the part of the current city administration, because they could have at any time asked for a modification of that to do a different project when this one proved not feasible. Okay? No one has ever made any kind of announcement as to what happened to that $2.5 million grant.
Okay.
All right? It's a big secret. So now they're talking about spending $1 million of our money to tear this property down. A property we didn't want in the first place.
Right.
Was a white elephant from day one, and property which is going to be useless after you tear it down. So I'm not even sure what the priority is here. Let it fall down. What the hell difference does it make at this point? If you're going to spend $1 million to, of course, most of that's going to go to consultants, I'm sure. So, I mean, it's, somebody's not doing their job here. And we need to have answers as to what's going on there.
And we haven't had any.
And we haven't had any, and I don't expect to get any. But I'm putting this out there in case somebody from the newspaper wants to go ask some questions.
I worked at Esquire for 3 days.
Did you make guns?
Yes, I did. Oh, well, I spray painted the guns that are already made.
Okay. Well, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
What you did was...
take them off the rack and put them in the shield and spray paint
produce
both
wealth.
sides. Yeah, and passed them on, and I think I was getting like $1.35 an hour. Then but there's all piecework. You had to make X number of every hour in order to get your rate, and then everyone beyond rate you got, I don't know, 1/4 cent or 1/2 cent extra on there. You know, there's some guys in there who've been doing that for 20 years. You know, I got a job in teaching, so I only had to work there 3 days. But that was a going concern. In the MCM Esquire Novelty.
Oh, for a long time, sure.
Had, you know, outlets all over the world, and it was
cap pistols, right?
Yeah. Cap pistols, rifles, holsters. You know,
toy stuff, toys.
Yeah, toys. Yeah, toys. Yeah, but it just a lot of people in there. I remember standing in line to punch in, and it's just a whole lot of people. We had 3 punching clocks, and you had to get in line and punch out and punch in, and it was a lot of people. It was again back when we had industry in the community. So,
wow.
Well, that's too bad that we squandered.
Yeah.
$2.5 million.
$2.5 million.
Or we just put it in an account and spent it doing something else that we weren't supposed to.
I don't think we had it in cash. I think it was the way those things work. You have to do the project, then you get reimbursed. So.
No, we didn't do a project, so there was no reimbursement then. No,
I mean, if they did transfer it to something else, there should have been a public hearing on the subject, and I know there never was. But I think they just let it go. They just let it go because they didn't know what they were doing. There's no other explanation for it if it got let go.
No, that's too bad. Too many things in this community slip through the fingers, and things that need to get done don't get done.
I mean, when you're talking that kind of money, man.
That's a big one, $2.5 million. You can do an awful lot with that.
Yeah, and you don't even have a dump issue here, you know.
No.
Or C&D landfill. Yeah. You know, this town is broke. People are moving out like crazy. It's almost impossible to sell property here. Boy.
It's not adding to the value of the community, that's for sure.
Well, what's going on with the school board? It's even moving principals around and things like that?
Yeah, we got a opening of school. Teachers come in on Tuesday. Elementary's open on Wednesday. The 6th graders come in the middle school on Wednesday, and the 9th graders go to the high school. They bring those 2 classes into the new building because it's the first time in these buildings, and they want to give the kids the lay of the land without the interference.
Before they get beat up by the older kids?
I don't know anybody gets beat up.
Well, you know what I mean. I don't mean literally.
They get pointed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You know, you're standing next to the room, they say, no, it's down the hallway there, and you know, because these are big buildings, lots of kids. So we bring them in early, and they get a chance to meet their teachers and wander around and find their lockers and their classes. I took my son up there today, and he got the schedules yesterday, and he went up and he found where all his rooms were, and you know, so met Mr. Myers, assistant principal up there. He talked to him for a little bit. And we saw John Penman, who was leaving middle school and going to Curry as principal. We had a chance to talk to him, and there's a lot of work getting finished up in the next 72 hours at middle school. They've done a lot of painting. They've done the
in the old part or the new part?
In the old part, they did a lot. They did the auditorium over. It is beautiful, the auditorium. Because you remember it when it was there and beginning to age.
Right.
And they actually have a sound system in there now. It really works. All new seating. It's all been freshly painted.
They have a real light board?
Yes, they do.
Like a computerized light board and all that? Really?
A soundboard.
Oh. Well, then that's the place to put on the shows, because that's always been a better theater than the other one.
It's a different theater. Theater. So they're doing that. They refilled the pool. They had to drain the water out of the pool. They have to regrout it every few years, and they did that and getting the pool filled up again. They're still doing some work on the roof up there, maintaining the integrity of the historical architecture up there, and they are working on that. So there's a lot of work been done there, and the high school's getting finished up. They redid the traffic pattern in front of the high school.
So we now have the Murdoch plan in effect?
Well, we hope. I work right across from the high school at the house on Miami, and you know, for people who are 21 or older, they don't have a comprehension of what yellow cones mean when they're orange cones mean when they're all piled up in front of something. It doesn't mean to stop your car, get out, move, and drive through. It means don't drive through there.
So the roads are still technically connected? Physically connected?
You can get into the parking lot, yeah. That way if you go in the front, but that's going to be, it's only supposed to be for the buses to come in, drop off, and come out, and all parking should be coming off the street just past the school, take a left and come back in the parking lot. So you're not going to have cross patterns there. But the guy
You're
had
not
just
supposed
finished, not supposed to, just finished up tarring the road, and the other night the parking lot, and somebody came through that night, and the next morning you could see the ruts that somebody left there, and the guy had to go out and reapply some to kind of level it off. It's all painted. They have lights now in front of the high school, street lights that illuminate the school. You can actually see. The lights were pretty well beat when I was there. A lot of electrical wasn't working, and they redid that. They've redone the entrance to the school. The classrooms are all finished up, so it really has a feel as a school now, as opposed to a sterile warehouse that the old feeling had. You know, they painted it fresh paint, so it's got a little cheery attitude. It doesn't have that pea green and,
right.
Walls in there. They've done a wonderful job up there.
I wonder whose idea that color ever was. And I don't mean just locally.
No,
it's an institutional,
yeah, it is.
Awful color.
Yeah, I think it's probably somebody couldn't get into art school, and they continually showed why they couldn't get in art school, because it was just not an appealing thing. You know, plus those walls used to be metal. You know, they were put up after the building was built. Remember, it was an open school when they built it.
Oh.
That was the rage back in the
sure.
in the 70s. Open,
yeah.
You know, and you could literally sit in one classroom and see all the way down.
Right.
You know, through 5 or 6 classrooms to the outside.
And hear all the noise from the next
And hear all the noise. You know, it was very distracting.
So you got real walls in there now?
They put real walls in there now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. And all the rooms are equipped with smart boards.
I remember when that first happened. It didn't take very long before the teachers put up, in effect, their own artificial walls.
Yeah, they did.
There were, you know, bookcases and file cabinets and everything else, so that the separation immediately was restored to what it was before,
right.
Or would have been otherwise.
And then later on, they put up the metal walls between, and they created rooms like that, and they were always they weren't appealing. They were very hard to use. You couldn't really you either had to glue something up there or screw it into the wall. You know, and but it really has a totally different feel when you're in there now. You go down to the media center, which is also been arrayed with computers. It's just a
That's what we used to
place
call a library?
Library, yes. And now it's a media center.
It always was, I think, since they built that school.
Yeah. So
I'm losing track of time. How old is that building now?
That was
70s?
78, 79, someplace in there. I wasn't here when it went up.
So it's been a long time.
I was out west when they did. Been there for a long time. You know, the auditorium was done a few years ago, and it's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a pool-torium anymore. You know, it doesn't.
Right.
The water doesn't leak into it and ruin anything anymore. So everybody's getting ready for the opening of school, and you know, it's a very busy time. People think, oh, it's summertime. What do they do? Well, you have to do all the things in the summer to get ready to open the building in September.
Right, because you can't do it during the school year.
Yeah, you know, textbooks are coming in, they're getting distributed to the things. The buildings are all getting cleaned by the custodians, you know. Those rugs get beat all year. You gotta, you know, clean them. You gotta strip down the the hard floor, the linoleum floors, put new finishes on them. You know, you want when school open up. You know, it's the best the building's going to look all year, is that opening day, and they work real hard to get it opened up. And they've got a lot of young teachers coming in, new teachers to the districts. We had a lot of retirees, and they've been in the building probably a week and a half anyways. We had a program for them Wednesday down at Cab, and it was good. They're coming in all excited, and you know, the old teachers are coming back all excited, and the kids are coming back, and we'll find out how excited they are. You know, there's a home football game tonight.
Oh yes, yeah. I meant to bring it up.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was a home game, so
yeah,
we're opening at home. I heard the band practicing earlier this morning.
They were down at the band bus brought all the instruments down there this morning, and the band's up there practicing their formations out there, and football team was out there practicing their formations. Neither twins shall meet, though. They don't.
Yeah, we might actually pick up some of this on the sound. Well, not long before you got here, I heard the band playing over there.
Yeah, so they're excited. This week is home, Averill Park, and next week it's away at Mohannis.
Is this a league game, the Averill Park?
Yeah.
Or the?
Yeah, it's a game that counts. Yeah. The league is not like the Big Ten, like for other sports. Football is all done by size of the schools. It's all
right.
And so we Averill Park is in our bracket. I think Queensbury is in our bracket. That's always a big rivalry. So it's you know, it's that time of year. You know, this sunny weather, this warm weather is gonna.
Oh, well, so we South Glens Falls, right? South
Glens Falls.
Gloversville.
Gloversville was last year. I think they still are this year. They're still big enough to be, and I think they're in our group. You know, it's hard to keep track of who plays who when now, because you play all the teams in your group, but you also have to play a crossover into the other group of the same
the other
size.
Division, where you got Burnt Hills.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it should be good. We got a new
we got to the Super Bowl last year.
Yes, we did. We got knocked out in the last minute or so.
Yeah, don't you hate that?
Yeah, when that happens. But that's all in the past. Everything else is coming up, and it's what we do.
And you got another big change. Mike Perry's running the band this year.
Yes, he is. Yeah, the band's been working since the beginning of last week. It was like the second. They start the same time football does. You know, people forget that you know the marching band runs as long as football season, and we always like football season to run as long as we can, because the kids are focused on football and the other sports we have in the fall, and things stay on pretty good track. You know, when football season ends, it's sometimes a little bit rough road. Kids don't have as much to do or as many things to be involved in as they did. But he's got a big band. Mike does this year. He's taking over for Stephanie Boyce, and he's been working real hard with the kids. And you know, I think he'll just.
Was he able to make the trip to Scotland? Or?
Yeah. No, he didn't go. No, he didn't go. He sent his wife and the rest of the family over, and he stayed here this time. He went down south.
You got a spider on you. Oh. Okay, gone.
He went down south to see a friend of his, played some golf before it opened up. But his wife and kids were there in Scotland, and they had a real good time over there. So, and what else is going on in the school district? You know, we're following closely what's taking place down in Albany to see if we can catch any early wins as far as what's happening with funding and the.
Well, I see you've started the budget process now. What is this budget committee? I mean, it's some civilians, some board members.
It's some board members. It's some.
I noticed there was some disagreement as to what the function is.
Yeah, there was some discussion how effective the committee has been in the past and what we could do to make it more effective. The feeling of some of the people on the board is it should not simply be an informational committee that receives information that dissipates it to the community and to the rest of the board, but rather a working committee that actually can make some decisions on what we're looking to do, what areas we need to increase spending on or decrease spending on, and so
what the options are.
What the options are, you know, looking at the funding that we get for different grant programs, different title programs for our school, because every school gets different funding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to want you to get into too much personnel discussion here, but I got the impression from reading the article that the superintendent basically told the committee, your function is to advocate for my budget.
Well, that has been always one of the functions of the committee, and I think the committee will advocate for the budget that is finally presented, but I think that this committee is looking to have a greater hand in the crafting of the budget. You know, when you're in a room by yourself, you probably got one idea. If you got two people in a room, you should have at least two ideas or more. And when you have the level of expertise that many of the people on the committee have, you know, they should be able to come up with some, you know, creative, innovative, and functional means to handle our money coming in and how it's applied. In what areas maybe we have to look at to cut back on. You know, you can't have all things all the time for everybody. And I think it's going to, one of the charges of the process is to look at it, to help prioritize what we need, and what we need, what we'd like to have, and what we can afford to have. Like every other aspect of government, or every aspect of a taxing body, you know, we recognize that things are going to be very difficult coming up. The county's is in a tough boat. You know, the state is too, and we really have to look at, you know, how we're going to be able to do things. You know, you can't continually do things the way you've always done. You have to look at things differently. Sometimes it requires making hard decisions that you don't necessarily want to have to make, but you have to make.
Like what? By the way, is this an early start for this committee?
Yes. Yeah. Usually it doesn't get going until in the fall. But one of the goals of the board that the board created was to begin the budget process earlier. You know, look at, you know, one of the things we want to be able to, you know, look at how this is going to play out, not next year, but, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road. That involves, you know, contracts. You know, what impact does the current contract have on the budget? What is the next contract to be signed? How is that going to impact the budget? You know, and it's something that has been looked at in the past, but I don't think to the degree that we're going to be doing it now, or the intensity of what we're going to be doing it now.
How many unions do you deal with?
We have 3 bargaining units. Well, there's 4. You've got the teachers, okay, and you got CSEA, which is made up of bus drivers and maintenance, clerical, and teacher aides. So you've got those. You also have so if you count the CSE as 1, that makes 2. Then 3 is the unit administrators, which are the building principals and the assistant principals. So those are the different units we have. Right now we're doing all the CSE contracts, we're negotiating those, and we're negotiating the teachers' contract. The administrators were done last year. So we've got, you know, 2 unions and 4 groups that we're working on.
And what do you do, like a 3-year contract?
Well, you know, in the past.
Well, I mean in the past.
We've done 3 or 5 year contracts. You know, there's advantages, pro and con. Like, you know, with the city, what the advantage of a long-term contract is. You know, well, we don't have to sit down and do this for 3 or 4 more years.
Well, you also know what to expect in your budget for 3 years.
That's right.
Which is a big advantage.
Which is a big advantage. And then the downside is, because we don't know what money we're going to have for our budgets, you know,
maybe
do we want to be committed to that expectation 3 years down the road? Right. And it's something that municipalities all over the state are facing now. Do we really want to lock ourselves in? Well, if you lock yourselves in, you got to be pretty darn sure that you're going to be able to maintain services 3 years down the road if something happens for the state, that the money that you're accustomed to having coming in doesn't come in. And what ramifications does that have? Are you talking about, is that going to necessitate elimination of personnel? Is it going to necessitate a scaling back of benefits that the district or the municipality offers? Is it going to cut back on you know, the services, the programs we offer? Are we going to be able to offer, you know, 6 additional math courses at the high school above and beyond what the state says? You know, all those things have to be looked at, and they don't always mesh very well together. Sometimes it seems like we negotiate against ourselves, and that makes it tough when that happens. So we're getting an early start this year, so that
What are these additional math courses?
well, to graduate from high school, a student needs to take 3 years of math.
Right.
And every 4 or 5 years they change the name of the courses.
Right.
But basically,
right. Algebra A, Algebra B.
Yeah. You know, but you have to take 3 courses in high school to graduate. 3 math courses, all of which are supposed to be a more difficult level than the previous. Which I never understood that in math, because you need 4 years of social studies, but in and of itself, neither course is more difficult than another. But mathematics is supposed to be more challenging than previous. I don't.
Well, one builds on the next.
I guess, but I mean, you could do world history without doing American history, or vice versa, independent. But you can't with math. But anyhow, you know that you're required to have 3 years of math. All right. What beyond that should we be offering our kids who want to go to college? You know, Calc 1, Calc 2, you know, integrated mathematics.
Right.
I don't know.
AP.
Yeah. I mean, there's all these things. You know, so how much can we afford to offer beyond what the minimum requirements are?
Yeah.
You need 4 years of social studies. All right. So it takes world history in over 2 years. You take American history, then you take a half year of government, a half year of economics. All right. Should we offer something more than that? Should we offer a course in Scottish bagpipe history? Should we offer a course in women's studies, or a course on the history and impact of baseball in American society? You know,
Right.
they have to decide these things. What do you want to just offer the bare minimum? Well, yeah, we could afford the bare minimum. Can we afford more? Well, what happens to our kid when he goes to college, when he's come up against somebody that's taken 5 or 6 years worth of mathematics, when they're going, you know, what competitive disadvantage do our kids have, or what competitive advantage do our kids have when they go on? You know, you're trying to build on the future of the community, and you want kids who are as educated as possible, can be as successful as possible when they go on to the next step. How much preparation do we have to do? You know, you need 4 years of English.
You know, I'm thinking back when we were in high school. We had the 4-year math program was algebra, geometry, trig. I don't really know what the 4th one was. It was a little more advanced. We did a little pre-calc, and
yeah, and then we could poor math students to take integrated algebra instead of.
But then the other, then there was an intermediate algebra.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that was numbers 7 through 12 that you studied that year. So the intermediate numbers. I don't know. I never understood that.
Well, intermediate algebra was basically for people who weren't going to take the advanced math, really.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. My mother, I don't know if you remember when my mother was teaching. You wouldn't have had her because she left when I was a freshman. But she was a math and science major in college. Finished top of her class in college, and went to work in nuclear physics at GE, and then got married, had kids, and got out of the job market. And then in the late 50s, she decided she was, you know, going to be a substitute teacher, or maybe a real teacher. So she went to Siena, took some courses, you know, a couple of courses a semester, and you know, then we moved to Amsterdam, and she puts herself on the substitute list at St. Mary's right after we moved here. So they call her in October to fill in for a couple of days for a nun who had gotten sick, was teaching English, junior and senior English. Well,
she spoke English?
She spoke English after a fashion, because she had her Massachusetts accent, which confused the hell out of her students. Oh yeah. Yeah, she'd do the spelling quizzes on Friday, and one of the words was guard, G-U-A-R-D. Yeah. And she would say, God.
G-O-D.
And they'd look at her, what was that, Mrs. God? God. God? Not God, God. Well, anyway, Father Glavin comes in to see her after a couple of days and says, the teacher's not coming back. Will you stay for the rest of the year? Now, she's not an English teacher. She knows nothing about being an English teacher. So she said yes. But they also gave her, along the way, she would be teaching one course in elementary algebra and one in intermediate algebra. That's why I was thinking about the intermediate. I think it was Sister Anna Roberta who took her under her wing and says, look, because particularly the junior English was important because that was the Regents year. Yeah. And she says, here's how you teach how to write a book report. Here's how you teach how to write a composition, and the quizzes and all that stuff. And by God, she turned into a great English teacher, and the kids.
By God or by God?
By God.
Oh, okay.
God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember that after that they moved her down to 9th, 10th, and 11th. She didn't teach seniors anymore. But also then one year the classes were getting bigger, and Father Hartley was the vice principal, and he called her in and said, "You're only going to teach one math class this year because you got an extra English class or something like that." She said, "Well, which is it?" He says, "I'll get back to you." And then he passes her a note: "Elementary, my dear Watson."
But those are some of the things that every school district faces. How much above the minimum are we going to provide? And what else are we going to offer to our kids to keep them engaged and
advance the culture and provide for excellence.
That's right, because you want your kids, because schools
reward excellence.
And you want the excellent kids to be rewarded. You want them to feel that they're a vital part of the school community. That we're looking at we're not doing something because we have to. We're doing something because this is what we should do. So
one of the wonderful things that this state used to do and no longer does was the Regents Scholarship. It was based. If you were working hard and learning, you would get a decent stipend from the state to attend a school in the state of New York. My Regents Scholarship was, back then was worth like, $2,800 a year or something like that, which was way more than my tuition. So I never got the full benefit out of it, but still, if you're going to a private school back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of schools, if they saw you had a Regent Scholarship, would match it, yeah. which was even better. I could have gone to St. John's.
Yeah.
But then then they also had, along with that, they had the TAP program, which was available to everybody who wanted to go to college, which was worth like, I don't know, a couple $100 a year or $400 a year or something like that. So you had the two-tiered thing. You had the TAP program available to everybody who wanted to go to college, but then you rewarded the ones
went above and beyond. I forget back when we went to school what we had to do to qualify for the Regents Diploma. I don't know if it was the average of our Regents exams. There was some way that
the Regents Scholarship had a separate exam. Yeah, there was a Regents Scholarship exam.
Yeah, it's like an SAT.
Yes, yeah. And we took them around the same time. And I remember my mother wrote some of the English portions of the Regents Scholarship exam for a few years.
Well, the Regents Scholarship program it was down at $250 a year, which is maybe enough money to pay for part of your textbooks for one of your courses. Mm-hmm. So we don't. You got the National Merit Scholarship, which is based upon your SATs.
Yeah, which also used to be a separate exam. We used to take a lot of exams. We had the PSATs.
You can still take those.
Then you had the National Merit Exam. You had the Regents Scholarship Exam and the SATs. Yeah. Most of which we took our junior year. I think the PSAT was sophomore year, maybe.
Yeah, that was to give you an idea how you're going to do. And then they have the ACT, which is another standard that you can use instead of the SATs for college. But I can remember though too, they told you when the test was going to be. You showed up on the day, took it, and you went home. Now, you know, the SATs are so competitive. Kids are spending thousands of dollars a year in preparation to take this test. You know, we thought about it, but we didn't think about it very hard. And you show up, and I remember going. We had to go over to high school.
Right, we had to go over to the high school.
We sat in the cafeteria.
God forbid they should let us take it at our own school.
We sat in the cafeteria and took it. You know, and we got done. And you know, you did your eeny, meeny, miny, mo sometimes, or. You know.
Now there used to be 3 hours for the English, 3 hours for the math. And then there was some
subjects.
Yeah,
that's like they still have those. They still offer that. You know, and some
I
kids
know I never did any of that.
You know, but a lot of schools are discounting the SATs now. That you don't have to take them for some colleges. They don't look at that. They look at more your success in your school and your activities and your essay that you write. You don't have to take the SATs because they found, you know, there's biases supposedly in the questions, and the validity of standardized testing isn't what it.
They'll take your money wherever they can get it. That's.
You know, and the funny thing, I was talking to some parents over in Scotland, some of the parents of the kids on the trip. I was telling them, you know, look, you know, your kid's going to go to school. Honestly, take a look at a private school, because a private school will tend to give you more money than the state school, and in the end, it may cost you a lot less to do that than going to the state school, because state schools don't offer a whole lot anymore. It is what it is, and they could care. But private schools have these endowments that they can use to attract, you know, good quality students, and they're willing to, you know, like a car salesman, they can finagle the price to get you to come there.
It's almost these days. It doesn't matter where you go to school; you're going to end up paying the same amount of money, because with the way that FAFSA works, it's kind of convoluted and crazy. But
you really need to look at where you're most comfortable, where you're going to be more than some student ID number in a classroom. You know what the schools can offer you, the personalization that a lot of schools offer to kids. I mean, you get to know your professors, you get to have an opportunity to sit down and discuss things with them, as opposed to being someplace you've got 65 or 100 kids in a lecture room. You know, it's different than when we went. You know, and you know, I tell parents, you know, look, don't just because St. John Fisher charges $48,000 a year.
Don't mean anything until you get right down to it.
That's right. Get down to it and do it. But the number of colleges that some of these kids apply to is incredible. Some apply to 10, 12, 15 colleges. And there's, you know, someone will waive the fee for application, but they apply to so many because
it's real expensive.
Yeah, in a hurry. You know, you've been through it, you know.
I know.
You know, so. But anyhow, that's one of the things the district has to look at, and every school district does. You know,
I don't think any of my kids applied to more than 4 or 5, but I applied to 1. I mean, when I think back on the audacity of that, same with law school. I only applied to 1 law school. I said, oh, if they don't want me, too bad. I'll do something else.
I applied to 1 school on early admit.
Well, that's what I did too.
I sent out another application. I got in when I wanted to. I got into Hartwick, and I didn't get into the SUNY Oneonta, but it didn't matter because I already picked I was going to go there. But I remember kids, Sister Roberta in the back of the room had this big chart, and as you got accepted to college, your name was up there, and she'd write where you were going, and this you know, list in our class of 131 kids was up there, and you know, you got to see where everybody was going to go. So I mean, it was a big push. And I also told the parents there, you know what? If your kid doesn't know what they want to do, it's a lot better to spend it at FMCC than it is to spend it at a private school. Let them figure out what they want to do. I
well,
believe,
that's the other thing. I mean, how many? Lord, I was out of college before I knew what I wanted to do. You know, I went to Albany State because my brother went to Albany State, and I liked the college, and it was close by, and I could come home whenever I wanted, which was important to me at the time, and it was a good school. You know, and it never dawned on me that it might not accept me.
We went to Bishop Scully. We were good.
I went to Bishop Scully.
They take us.
I think we must have had like 80% went to college out of my class, maybe more.
Yeah. You know, and then when you count at community colleges, even more. What FMC is a gem in our backyard that people don't recognize. It's always, grass is always greener someplace else. Well, I'll go to Hudson Valley or Skinnick.
Well, why would you do that?
Well, FM, it's in our backyard. I mean, what do they got? You know, but they're golden up there. They're a tremendous program. up there, and I say, you know,
and you do well there, and you walk right into any other state school.
That's right. And when you apply for a job, what they look at, just the last, where your last diploma is from. They don't care if you went to community college first before you went to Union.
Yeah, right.
They just see Union up there. I applied to Hartwick because the girl I was going out with was a year older than I was, and she was at TSWNN. I figured that's good enough reason to go there. What the heck, right? And I can remember going for my interview. And I was getting a tour.
At Hartwick?
At Hartwick. I remember getting my interview, and I got taken on a tour by a guy by the name of Jake Conger. He was a wrestler up there, so we were talking sports. And we're walking down the hall, and the quintessential professor comes walking down the hall, Dr. Daniel Allen. He had his maps under his one arm. They're going in 3 different directions. He had a briefcase over here, and he had his glasses down on his nose like this, walking down the hall. And Jake says, Dr. Allen, I want you to meet, there's this student, he's a prospective student coming here, Gavin Murrah. I said, hi, Dr. Allen, hi. He says, what are you studying? I want to be a history teacher. Oh, I teach Russian history and all this stuff. You know, and he walked away, and he looked like a college professor should look like. And that was the first professor I ever saw. And I said, he's a really college professor, you know, he just looked like, and I had him in class, and he was like the, almost nutty professor isn't correct, but he just looked like a professor, and his hair was going different directions. He was originally from Pennsylvania. He was a SEAL during World War II, and he just knew everything there was about Russia, and I was just fascinated. And he was a honest, hardworking man. I sat in the class with his wife. She was taking the course. I got a better grade than she did. She didn't know all the answers. She got a B+ in the course. I got an A-, you know, but it was just, it just felt like college. Okay, it felt like college. This is what this looks like, and that's what really won me over going there. This is Dr. Daniel Allen. This is what college professors are supposed to look like, you know. And he had these maps. Oh, I mean, they were old. I mean, he put them down on one map would be, you know, Soviet Union, you know, 1932. Another was after the war, and one was under the Romanov, you know, and he just knew everything. But he was a professor, and you know, he taught you. He knew things. He was happy to talk to you about things.
Well, you're the right guy to talk to then. We had a discussion here the other day about Catherine the Great, and I'm a little hazy, but was she the founder of the Romanov dynasty?
No.
But she was in the Romanov dynasty.
She was part of it, but she wasn't Russian herself.
Yeah, I understand that.
You know, she came.
And I also understand that the subsequent children were not of the same dynasty.
Yeah, they were.
I don't believe the story about the horse necessarily.
I'm not sure about that.
I think that was probably
they didn't call it great for nothing. I guess I don't know.
But I mean, boy, I mean, she had a remarkable rise to power.
Oh, absolutely, she did. You know, bump off your husband and you take over. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. You know, and they had some, you know, but it was a dictatorial system that they had. You know, Peter the Great was a dictator there, and he grabbed Russia by the scruff of its neck and pulled them into a modern society. I mean, he was the one who first brought in the educated folks of Europe. He brought in the Dutch shipbuilders to teach them how to build ships. You know,
who was this?
Peter the Great.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah. You know, he fought wars on the southern front of Russia to try to get warm water ports. He recognized that they needed to trade and be competitive in the world. You know, they had some, but they were all ruthless dictators. You know, not the other countries didn't have ruthless dictators as well.
So when was Catherine around? The 18th century?
Yeah, she was in the early part. Yeah.
And was Alexander her son? Oh no.
No, he was before. Got an A- in that course. That might be the question I got wrong on the test.
I guess I'll call the professor's wife and get the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. Yeah. And I can remember going back to school for homecoming up at Hartwick, and he was there, and you remember me. Yeah. You'd sit and talk to him. Just, you know, I guess there's probably 3 great educators that affected me. He was one of them.
Sister Anna Roberta
and Sister Gonzaga. And so, well, actually 4. Sister Gertrude Joseph. Those are the 4 I can say that really affected me. And that's probably more than inspired me. They affected me in there. You know. And I just think that...
And mostly history, or in Sister Anna Burra's case,
Latin, but that was
a bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I always tell people, you know, if you didn't go to Catholic school, you don't have any stories to tell. Because you can go any place in the country, and somebody went to a Catholic parochial school for their education, you got the same story, just the names are changed to protect the perpetrators. You know.
We some years ago we went to see Nonsense down at Proctor's, which is really a wonderful show. But there are some things that they got so dead on perfect that it's astonishing. Early in the show, one of the nuns comes out and clicks her clicker. Now, that was something I hadn't thought of in decades, and yet apparently it was so universal that everybody in the audience got it immediately.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. You know,
and one comes out to introduce the show, and she says, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," and everybody in the audience said, "Good evening, sister." And she said, "Oh, we trained them so well."
Yeah, I remember. None would have that in church, and you click it. And
the clicker.
You had to kneel. You had to stand
the clicker.
up.
Kneel, stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and wasn't that what they used on D-Day too?
On what?
At D-Day,
the sure. Well, according to John Wayne, anyway.
Yeah, they had the clicker. Yeah.
Yeah, so then there was a mistake when the guy he mistook the clicker for the rifle, the lock and load.
I remember the nuns had that. I can remember the day we were sitting up in Dungeon Hall, up in the auditorium or gym, whatever you want to call it, which is neither, but that space up there, that sister was walking around. We were in choir boys were singing and stuff, and walked around, and comes up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder.
Your voice changed, right?
Yes, I was so happy. Oh, I was so happy when that happened. Yeah, we used to sing at the High Mass at 11 o'clock every Sunday.
And there were how many of us?
Oh, there was
50?
Oh,
60?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody wanted to be an altar boy. I remember in 3rd grade when we had to take our Latin test to get to serve Mass. You know, you memorize all the things. I didn't know what they meant, but I knew what the words were. You know, in the first Mass I ever served.
Introivo ad altare Dei.
Ecum Spiri 220.
Oh no, that's not
enough. But that's one of the things we had to say. I remember my first Mass was with Mark Stanley.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sancto.
Amen.
Man, jeez. What kind of altar boy are you?
The
answer is Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper and in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Oh, that's why I didn't.
You skipped the middle part.
I skipped the middle part.
You probably can't even do the Confiteor anymore, right?
No.
The big ones were the Confiteor and the Shushipiat.
Yeah, Shushipiat done with them too. Oh, yeah, bend over and you had you know.
All right.
You know, I always wanted to do the books. I was always afraid I was going to ring the bell at the wrong time. You just have to walk up and great. Oh, it was huge.
Oh, I don't know if you ever read the. I mean, I was telling one of these stories on my blog one day, and Bruce Conover, the Admiral, added his anecdote, which was. I don't know if it was his first Mass, but it was early on in any event. It may have been his first Mass. His father is in the congregation. It's like the 7 o'clock Mass in the morning. And Father Carus is doing the Mass. Now, for those of you who don't remember Father Carus, he was demonstrative, right?
Yeah, he was very.
I mean, he was. You know, when he had to do the nine blessings, it was.
Big show.
Oh, a big show. And when he would do the chanting in the Mass, he would you know, the Ite Missa Es took about 20 minutes. You know. Anyway, so it's a daily Mass, and you know, when it's time. The priest had his back to even the altar boy, so you get kind of a little bit of a side view from where you are down at the bottom of the high altar, but it's still a little. And you know, when the priest puts his hand over the chalice, that's when you're supposed to ring the bell the first time.
Yeah.
Well, Father Carus, you never could tell what he because his hands are always going. So Bruce is confused to begin with, and rings the bells in the wrong place, and Father Cruz turns around and glares at him, and then goes on a little he rings him again, still the wrong place, and he glares at him again, and finally comes to the point where he's supposed to do it, and he doesn't do it, and Father Cruz turns around, ring the bells. So he rings the bells, and now he's. Bruce was a little nervous in those days. He was humiliated. He couldn't face the world, and he said, "My father's going to kill me." He's so he takes off his cassock and surplice in the sacristy, and he's walking out, and his father's there to meet him. Puts his arm around him, and he leans over and he says, "Ah, the tintinnabulation of the bells, 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 bells." And that was the end of it. He took him across the street to Johnny Seafood to have a cup of hot chocolate and a cinnamon bun, and that was it. And what was one of the most horrible moments of his young life turned into one of the most memorable.
Absolutely, yeah. At least when you did the book, the priest would put his hand on the side.
Right.
He knew it was time to go up and.
Oh yeah, and that was the only reason the priest did that.
Yeah.
The only reason he put because that was
the sign.
That was the sign. You put the.
Yeah.
It was time to get up, go over, get the book, move the book.
Oh, that book was.
I was Jimmy Sitchy's helper. Okay. He was in your class.
Yeah.
And. God. And I was an experienced altar boy at this point, so we go through the whole. We practice and we practice and we practice and we get it down, and I'm satisfied Sitchy knows what he's doing. They put us on for his first mass together, so I can guide him along. And it was Father Hartley was doing the mass, and we do where you do the switch thing, where you do the book and the veil switch thing. So we genuflect in the middle. We go to the top of the stairs. He grabs the book, I grab the veil. We bow to the priest. We go back down to the foot of the altar. We genuflect again, and we both went right back to where we started from. Instead of doing the switch. And Father Hartley is leaning over the chalice, and his face is turning purple. He's suppressing the laughter so much, and for a long second there's nothing happening as we're both realizing we're in the all three of us realize we're in the wrong place, and finally he just goes, and we just walked around him and he went back. Oh jeez.
I'll tell you,
it was incredibly complex for kids who were 8, 9, 10 years old.
Third grade is when we took our test with Sister Alicia Marie. You had to go in 2 at a time.
What a saint she was! Bob
Swire and I went in together. And we weren't. It's over a course of 2-3 weeks. You'd practice a couple times a week, and as the kids knew what they went. Like I wasn't one of the first ones, but I wasn't the last. I was in the middle. Bob Swire and I went in. And we do it all. And did we get it right? Did we get it right? Yeah. And then a week later, you got your name on the schedule when you're going to do you're doing the 7 o'clock mass or the 6 o'clock mass. So,
we always got the early mass.
Oh, yeah. But I did mine with Mark Stanley, and he was 3 years old. Yeah, he's 3 years older than I was.
Yeah, he's a couple years older.
So he was like in 6th grade when I was in 3rd grade. But when they changed the mass, I really didn't like it. I really thought there was something to the old Latin mass and the way it was set up,
Well, you can still go to the one in Troy if you want. It's noon on Sunday. I mean, you can sleep late and still make it. But the mystery and the majesty and quite frankly the fact as an altar boy, you were really something special because you were part
of it, yes.
Of the whole thing. I mean, an essential, seemingly essential part. At least it seemed to us.
Yeah.
And then you do the Sunday thing, or the altar boy choir, and then if you were really special, you got to be an acolyte and hold, have
the carry the candles up.
And I never got to be an acolyte. Andy Budka, Bernie Welch, they were acolytes, but I don't know. I was probably too much of a wise guy.
But it was the choir. You'd have to get down there and they put those big bow grind and the red ones for Christmas and the black ones,
Right.
you know, tie on and come out, you know, and we sing
The Eton choir, collars
Oh, man.
and collar buttons.
Yeah.
Where do we get them? Mortans? Is that where we got the Eton collars?
You
Or
know,
Sleazaks?
no,
Sleazak. One of those men's stores.
Right.
I mean, I can't believe they stocked them for anything but us. But
Yeah. That us and St. Joe's and all the other
Yeah.
colleges, but it
Yeah.
was, as much as a drudge it felt sometimes, it was exciting because you're part of something that,
yeah.
you know, the girls couldn't be part of it. It was only for
That's
the
right.
guys. You know, I remember being in a choir loft one year at Christmas time. We were supposed to be singing, and they're gonna do Silent Night. You know, I forgot that John Vince was supposed to do a solo. All right, the first time through, and so I'm right here, and they sang. I go, and it's go. Oh, shut up! He can sing. He can sing. He had a good voice, John Vince.
Well, he did. Of course, he owned Birthday of a King. That was only done for, and you know, a few years ago, not too many years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I went to must have gone to midnight mass at St. Mary's, and all of a sudden the organ starts up and boom, you know, that long introduction, and out comes John Vince's voice. He had joined the choir he had been in the choir for a number of years, but he moved out of town. But he came back just to do his number again, and he did it for decades. One year at midnight mass, he thought it was his cue and he started up, and it wasn't even the right song. And he was embarrassed. But that was
About that
is
time.
it time?
About that time. It's 10 after 12.
Oh wow! Well, before we go, I want to mention Bud Barnett passed away this
Saw
week.
that.
And another one of our World War II heroes. He was
Yeah.
he was shot up pretty bad in the war. I got the clippings someplace, and you know, came back here, built up the insurance agency,
Yep.
built it. He built it himself.
Yes.
You know, nobody else built it for him. You know, raised a bunch of nice kids, and had a terrible bout with cancer toward the end, and passed away at a fairly ripe age, but. Just one of those good guys who continuously contributed to the community along the way. You know, just a good citizen. He was involved in the service clubs. I mean, was he on the school board at one time or something like that? I think.
I don't know.
But anyway, he was, one of those guys all
city
around, and he used to do those commercials with Raymond Burr on the radio. Well, I'm sitting here talking with Bud Barnett about why you should have car insurance. Thank you, Raymond. Remember this?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a while back. Yeah. And for anybody who's going to be looking for something to do over Labor Day, the Capital District Scottish Games are taking place tomorrow and Sunday down at the Altamont Fairgrounds.
That sounds like fun.
You can come down there and see the World Championship Scotia Glenville Pipe Band play.
When will they be performing?
They'll be performing at noon as part of the mass bands.
That'll be Saturday?
Saturday, and then at 1:20 as part of their competition. So come on down. It's going to be a great weekend.
Altamont Fairgrounds.
Altamont Fairgrounds.
That would be in
Altamont,
Altamont, New York? Yeah.
Altamont, New York. Yeah, it's about 25 minutes from here.
You know, yeah, you think of Altamont as being so far away, but we went camping down there one year, and I was amazed at how quickly I got home, because it's this side of Albany, and you hardly get out of Rotterdam, actually.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So anyway, that's it. I hope we were able to record the first hour of the show. If not, this was a pretty good second hour. And
as always,
some other time I'll discuss my experiences at the Republican National Convention in 1980. But we had enough to talk about today. So there's Gavin Murdoch. I'm Bob Going. Jim Nikosha had some family business today, but he'll be back. And you're available next week, right?
Yes, I am.
So we'll be back next week with more of The Show with No Name.